Hello students, here is Ashu Gupta, Assistant Professor. Again welcomes you all on the behalf of the Indraprasth Law College. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the primary sources of international law in details. So now let's open the books and start the slide. Now you may see that the sources of international law we have already discussed in the previous lectures about the international custom as one of the most important source of international law. The another primary source of international law is the international convention, which is also known as the treaties. Here we may discuss about the international conventions or treaties. So move on the next slide and see that what is the international conventions, what is the meaning of international conventions or treaties. Basically, treaties are between two or more states or between other subjects of international law by which they create or intend to create a relationship between themselves. Such agreements are sometimes referred to convention, protocol, accord, etc. Uh, and the terminology varies, but the substance is the same. So you may see that international treaties are contracts signed between the states. They are legally binding and impose mutual obligations on the states, which is earlier discussed in the previous lectures also. And at present, international treaties are the most important source of international law as the custom. Customer is you can see, you may say that custom is the primary source of international law, but for modern international law, the international treaties are the most important source of in that present era. So Article 38 1A of the Statute of ICJ lays down that the court, while deciding any dispute, shall apply international conventions, whether general or particular, establishing rules expressly recognized by contesting states in preference to other source of international law. Basically, that is a part of a contract signed by the states. So let's move on the next slide. Now you may see the general principles of law as the important primary source of international law. Although custom and treaties are in practice the principal sources of international law, they cannot be regarded as its only source. Paragraph 1C of Article 38 of the Statute of ICJ constitutes an important landmark in the history of international law, in as much as the states parties to the statute did expressly recognize the existence of a third source of international law known as a general principle of law. You may see that general principle of law, that is a term which is created in the international law as a primary source besides the international customs or the international treaties. There is no agreement on what the term general principles of law means. Some say it means general principle of international law, others say it means a general principle of national law. Actually, there is no reason why it should not mean both. The greater expansion in the meaning of this term, the greater chance of finding rules to fill the gaps in the treaty law and customary law. That is, two types of law defined in the general principles of law. One is called as a treaty law, which is arised from the international treaties, and the other one is customary law, which is arised from the international customs. So noted down that indeed international tribunals had applied general principles of law in both senses for many years before the Permanent Court of International Justice, that is the International Court of Justice (PCIJ) was established in 1920 in the meantime of the League of Nations, which is already priorly discussed in the previous lectures. Let's move on the next slide. And Article 38 of the Statute of ICJ refers to the general principle of law recognized by civilized nation. It is also recognized by the civilized nation. What is the civilized nation? You may already discuss with the previous lectures in the name of the Christianity or the historical evolution of the international law. That's why that is as a primary source of international law. This source is listed the third after international conventions. That is the third primary source after international conventions and international custom. And the court shall apply the general principle of law in cases where treaties and custom provide no rules to be applied. जहाँ पर दो देशों के बीच ट्रीटीज और कस्टम्स के थ्रू कोई रूल्स या रेगुलेशंस नहीं समझ में आते हैं, वहाँ पर कोर्ट के द्वारा PCIJ हमने पढ़ा है, तो जनरल प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ लॉस वहाँ पर क्रिएट किए जाते हैं, जो बेसिकली एक नेचुरल लॉ का पार्ट भी है. So let's move on the next slide. Now you may see the meaning of general principle of law, the origin of these principles. These principles basically are considered to be at foundation of any legal system, including international law, because it is generated by the court system. Yeah. Just like principles of consent, principles of equity, administration of justice, good faith, reciprocity, forbidding abuse of right, and res judicata, that all are based on the conscience or the natural law concepts. Nevertheless, there are various opinions as to the origin of general principles of law. Some regard them as being originated from the natural law, which underlies the system of international law and constitutes the criteria for testing the validity of the positive rules. Others regard them as stemmed from the national legal system, that is also called as a positive law, and have been transplanted to the international level by recognition. So that's why that is an important third primary source of international law. Let's move on the next slide. Yeah, here is judicial decisions and teachings. Basically, the judge of ICJ sometimes did a little more than merely determine a law. He may establish a law. This has occurred in many instances, such as the Anglo-Norwegian fisheries case of 1951, which stated the criteria for the recognition of baseline from which to measure the territorial sea, and the reparation case of 1949, which established the legal personality of international organization. The PCIJ during its existence gave a large number of decisions and advisory opinions on the matters of international concern, thereby developing international law. The ICJ, the successor of the PCIJ, has been doing the same. Basically PCIJ लीग ऑफ नेशन के समय में माना जाता था, लेकिन जैसे वो डेवलप हुआ यूएनओ की फॉर्म में, तो उसके बाद उसी को आईसीजे के नाम से जाना जाता है. दैट इज नोन एज एट दैट टाइम दैट इज नोन एज अ इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस. पहले परमानेंट कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस के नाम से उसे रिप्रेजेंट किया जाता था लीग ऑफ नेशन में. तो यू मे सी दैट इन द पीपीटी आर्टिकल 38 ऑफ द स्टैट्यूट ऑफ आईसीजे directs the court to apply judicial decisions as subsidiary means of determination of rule of law. So basically that depends on the rule of law. This direction is made subject to the provisions of Article 59, which states that the decision of the court has no binding force. Make clear that there is no binding force except between the parties and in respect of that particular case. And the provision of Article 59 of the Statute of the ICJ is understood to mean that the court is not obliged to follow the previous decision. So let's move on the next slide. As the term judicial decisions referred to by Article 38 also encompasses decisions or awards of international arbitral courts or tribunals and the decisions of national courts, these decisions have been playing a role in the development of international law. So while as Article 59 ascertained the doctrine of precedent, जो भी जुडिशियल डिसीजंस आते थे इस तरीके के, तो डॉक्ट्राइन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट के तौर पर दैट इज नॉन एज अ कॉमन लॉ, कॉमन लॉ के तौर पर वो फॉलो किए जाते थे इंटरनेशनल लॉ में. आई थिंक you have cleared all the things. It is still that the decision of the PCIJ and ICJ are quoted as authoritative decisions, and the international courts have always strived to follow their previous decisions to insert certainty and uniformity within their judicial process. Clear? तो वो जो PCIJ ICJ के द्वारा जो भी डिसीजन वहाँ पर दिए जाते थे वो एज अ प्रेसिडेंट यहाँ पर लागू किए जाने लगे. Next, finally say that judicial decisions, whether international or national, have played an important part in the development of international law. The international customary law has largely developed from case to case, and a large number of cases have been submitted to international as well as national courts of various nations. That's why the decision of national courts of various nations have played a role in the development of international law, particularly the international customary law. That is, these decisions help to form international customs. They show what the national courts have accepted as international law or how the international law in the given case is understood in that country. So hope you will have been enjoyed the whole session and successfully enumerated it into your study and be benefited from this presentation. Thank you. We will meet soon again in the new session. Thank you very much.